Greetings from Temecula, California. So glad you tuned in to the show that tells it like it is, cuts through the nonsense, and doesn't apologize for telling the truth. And boy, oh boy, do we have a lineup for you today. First up, Russell Westbrook. The man's on the move again. This time he's lighting up the Sacramento Kings. That's right. The 916 is about to get a healthy dose of beast mode energy. Westbrook doesn't play basketball. He brings the fire, right? The passion, the drama, the fans. Well, they love it, or they can't stand it. But one thing's for sure, Sacramento will never be boring again. Meanwhile, in college football, the Nittany Lions coaching search is already heating up. Matt Rhule, Manny Diaz, their names being thrown around. And let me tell you, whoever steps into that role has a lot more than X's and O's to worry about. Penn State's a storied program, tradition, pressure, expectations. It's a lot to carry. And the next coach better be ready. And in the NFL, the grind continues. The San Francisco 49ers are getting tested. Fred Warner, questionable. Brock Purdy, still limited in practice. George Kittle, waiting in the wings. Injuries are piling up. And when your stars are sidelined, every game becomes a chess match. Depth, grit, and coaching smarts, those will decide if the Niners can weather the storm. We have an injury update. And apparently today is National I Love Lucy Day, which is wild because I didn't even know we had a day for that. Like, we got a day for Lucy, but mothers, you know, that Mother's Day, that's a thing, but I don't know. You know, Lucy just ate chocolate too fast. I mean, that was her claim to fame. Just kidding. Lucy was a legend. Like, straight up comedy icon. You ever see that Chocolate Factory episode? Lucy and Ethel are working the conveyor belt and it starts going faster and they're just shoving chocolate in their mouths like it's a TikTok challenge. I watched that and was like, yo, this is me trying to keep up with my group texts. And then there's the one where she does the TV commercial for that health tonic, Veganita vitamin. She's out here slurring her words like she just left brunch with the Kardashians. She's like, it's tasty too. And I'm like, Lucy, that's 23% alcohol. You're not selling vitamins. You're pre-gaming. Honestly, Lucy was doing influencer content before influencers were a thing. She was out here making chaos go viral in black and white. She had an Instagram today. It'd be nothing but reels of her falling off treadmills and trying to cook with a fire extinguisher. So shout out to Lucy. She walked so chaotic girlfriends on TikTok could run. Happy I Love Lucy Day, everybody. Go eat some chocolate and pretend your life isn't falling apart. That's what Lucy would have wanted. And with that, I welcome you to the Ryder Report. I am Ryder Bullock. We begin tonight with the Tyler Skaggs civil trial in Los Angeles. And boy, this one's ugly. It's tragic, it's layered, and it's not going away quietly. So here's what we know. Tim Meade, longtime Angels executive, the guy who later became president of the Baseball Hall of Fame, he took the stand and said Eric Kay, the team's former communications director, was a good employee 95% of the time, but had mental health struggles, behavioral issues, took medication for depression and bipolar disorder. Now, Kay, remember, he's the one convicted of giving Skaggs that fentanyl-laced oxycodone pill that killed him on that road trip in 2019. He's doing 22 years in federal prison, so this isn't just some he said, she said thing. There's already a criminal conviction here. But now, Skaggs' family, they're going after the Angels themselves. They're saying the team knew or should have known Kay was a problem. That he was unstable, that he was dealing drugs to players, and they didn't do enough to protect their guys. They're asking for $118 million. That's for lost earnings, pain, suffering, punitive damages, the whole thing. Now, Meade testified that he knew Kay had mental health issues. He knew Kay was taking medication, sometimes wasn't taking it, but says he never knew about illegal drugs. Says Kay was in employee assistance program. They thought that covered it. And listen, it's tricky, right? You've got a guy on staff working around players, taking money from them for stunts, yelling at interns, having affairs, and you're telling me nobody's upstairs thought, hey, maybe we should keep an eye on this guy. Come on. That's not just hindsight. That's common sense. This case is about accountability. Tyler Skaggs didn't deserve to die at 27. And the fact that multiple players later said they got pills from Kay, that's not an isolated thing. That's a pattern. Now, do I think the Angels caused this? No. Skaggs made some bad choices too. But I do think the team turned a blind eye to a dangerous situation. And now, years later, MLB's testing for opioids. There's a treatment program, which is all good. But it took a kid dying in a hotel room for the league to wake up. This trial is going to run for weeks, and we may hear from some big names. Mike Trout, Wade Miley, others. We'll see how deep it goes, but I'll tell you right now, this is not just a lawsuit. It's a reckoning for baseball's culture of silence. And when it comes to that, players are going to have to be honest, right? And, it's the silence is over, and we're going to have to be honest about what players are putting in their bodies. That is what is going on in a Los Angeles courtroom, and we will keep you updated as that story progresses. The trial continues tomorrow all day in Los Angeles. I want to bring you this story that we are continuing to follow out of State College, Penn State, one of the blue bloods in college football, firing James Franklin after a third straight loss. The Nittany Lions fall to 3-3, and now they're looking for their next big hire. And already we got odds. You know how it goes in today's world. They'll put a line on anything. So according to Kalashi, that's a New York-based prediction market, Nebraska's Matt Rhule is the early favorite to replace Franklin. They've got him listed at 50%. 50, half the money coming in says he's the guy. Now, Kurt Cignetti from Indiana, that's the name that I keep hearing thrown around, and I think that's interesting. He's sitting at about 29%. You saw what Indiana did on Saturday, massive win over Oregon. The Hoosiers are still undefeated. And look, that program was left for dead a couple of years ago. Cignetti's done a phenomenal job. He's a ball coach. He's old school. But this is Penn State we're talking about. They've got history, they've got money, and they've got expectations, and they are through the roof right now. So I don't put much stock into the early odds. $428 in bets. Come on, that's a dinner bill in Midtown. That's not a market, okay? But what does it tell you? It tells you there is speculation leaning. And here's the thing. On3's reporting that Penn State wants to go big game hunting. That's the phrase. They're not looking to go small. They want a name. They want a splash. And one of the names they're targeting, Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame. Okay? Now listen, Freeman's got that thing rolling in South Bend, right? Just a game shy of a national championship. They got a big game Saturday against USC where they could potentially run the line and get back into the college football playoff. So I don't think Marcus Freeman is going to leave for Penn State. It would be a shocker if he did it. But I get it. They're calling the biggest names they can. Ryan Day, coach at Ohio State. Coach at Ohio State, fresh off a national championship. He's off the board, not a candidate, right? Kalen DeBoer from Alabama, off the board. So you ruled those two out. Okay. I'm also hearing Jeff Braun from Louisville. So, I don't know. It could be anybody. Your guess is as good as mine. Franklin, by the way, 104 wins, 12 seasons, second winningest coach in history. Say what you want. He stabilized that program after the Sandusky fallout. He made them relevant again, but it always felt like Penn State was good, not great. Always right there, but never over the hump, and eventually that wears thin. You lose 3 in a row, especially against UCLA and Northwestern, both games where you were favored by 20. The alumni start calling for your head. And here we are. Now they turn it over to Terry Smith, the associate head coach. He's the interim guy for the rest of the season. They've got Iowa this weekend, first game in the post-Franklin era. We'll see how they respond. If you ask me who I would pick, like I said, your guess is as good as mine. But Rhule's an interesting fit. He knows how to rebuild programs. He did it at Temple, did it at Baylor. He's got that Pennsylvania connection. But here's the thing. He's just in year 2 at Nebraska. You think the Cornhusker folks are going to let him go without a fight? Not a chance. So if Penn State wants him, they better back up the truck. What about Singeti? He's more realistic than a Marcus Freeman. And then I mentioned Braum at Louisville. That's another name floating around. He's creative, offensive mind, and he wins. Also has some Big Ten experience with Purdue. So that one makes sense too. Penn State's going to try to swing for the fences. That's the bottom line. They've got the resources, they've got the name brand, and they've got a fan base that expects to compete with Ohio State and Michigan every single year. Whoever takes that job better know 10 wins won't be enough if you're not beating those two. Let's switch gears to the NBA for a minute, because this one raised my eyebrows when I saw it come across. Russell Westbrook, yes. Russell Westbrook is headed to the Sacramento Kings. Now look, I know what you're thinking. Ryder, Westbrook's 36. He's been all over the league. What's he's got? What does he have left? And you're right. He's not the MVP anymore. But here's the thing. This move actually helps Westbrook a lot more than it helps Sacramento. Let's start with the facts. 18th season, 203 triple-doubles, over 26,000 points, nearly 10,000 assists. He's an all-time guy, one of the fiercest competitors we've ever seen. But he's been through it all, right? Lakers, Clippers, Wizards, Rockets, a carousel. He's been the scapegoat in half of those stops. Now in Sacramento, there's no pressure. There's no LeBron shadow, no Hollywood drama, no he's ruining chemistry narrative. He's walking into a smaller market where he can just play basketball. And that's good for him. Bring some intensity and maybe give them a jolt when they need it. But for the Kings, I don't love it. I really don't. The Western Conference right now is a war zone. You've got Denver, Minnesota, OKC, Dallas, Golden State, Phoenix, Clippers, Lakers. There's no room for error. And Sacramento's identity is built around speed, spacing, and chemistry. Westbrook doesn't exactly fit that mold. He's not a shooter. And when you put him on the floor with Fox or Sabonis, spacing gets tight real fast. So yeah, good for Russ. He stays in the league. He's on a team that's competitive. He gets to play meaningful minutes. But it doesn't move the needle for the Kings. They're not suddenly a top 4 seed because of this. If anything, it feels like a nostalgia signing, a respect move. Hey, this guy's a future Hall of Famer. Maybe he helps our young guys. Maybe he gives us a spark, and that's fine. But if you're talking about contending in the West, this isn't the move. Still, I'll say this. I give Westbrook credit. Most guys his age, with his resume, they'd pack it in or chase a ring as the 12th man on a contender. He still wants to play, still wants to compete. You can't knock that. The man's weird different. And it actually ties in perfectly to where this team stands as we get into our 30 teams in 30 days segment previewing the Sacramento Kings, because let's be honest, the Kings right now are caught in basketball purgatory. They're not bad, but they're not good enough. 40 wins last year, 9th in the West, bounced in the play-in. That's 2 straight years stuck in that middle zone, not rebuilding, not contending. Let's set the table. 40-42 last season, roller coaster from start to finish. You had a coaching change mid-year. Your GM left right after the season ended, and De'Aaron Fox, your franchise guy, got dealt the Spurs in that wild mid-season deal for Zach LaVine. So the roster's been turned upside down. Now you've got DeMar DeRozan, right? You've got Sabonis, you've got LaVine. That's a trio of guys who can score. You had veterans like Dennis Schroeder and Draco Saric, Drew Eubanks. That's experience, that's toughness. You signed Keon Ellis, and you've got 2 rookies, Naik Clifford and Maxime Reynan, who looked good in Summer League, and now they've got to get Westbrook. And that's where the conversation gets interesting. I'll tell you why the Westbrook move works for him, but not necessarily for them. For Russ, this is a soft landing. It's a fresh start. He's in a market that isn't going to dissect every turnover, every shot he doesn't take. He's free to just play, lead, and mentor. He's not the star anymore, and he knows that. This is a spot where he can be the adult in the room, help Schroeder, help Clifford, help a young roster figure out how to play hard every night. It's great for him. But for the Kings, listen, this is a team trying to crack the top 6 in a loaded Western Conference, right? I mentioned it again. You've got Dallas, Denver, Minnesota, OKC, Phoenix, both LA teams. All of them better on paper, and Sacramento's trying to hang around that mix. Adding Westbrook doesn't move the needle toward contention. It makes them deeper. It gives them a spark plug, but it doesn't fix the real issue, and that's consistency and defense. Doug Christie, first full year as head coach, he's got to build a new identity for this team. They were the beam team a couple of years ago. Remember that? Fun, fast, exciting. 48 wins, broke the playoff drought. But since then, 46 wins, then 40, trending in the wrong direction. Their X factor for this year, Keegan Murray. The kid's got a real upside. 3 points, 3-point record as a rookie, improving as a defender, but he's out for the first month or so with a thumb injury. When he gets back, he's going to take that next leap. If he can become that reliable 2-way wing, that's the difference between another play-in or a playoff berth. So here's the key question. Can this group of veterans with DeRozan, Sabonis, LaVine, and now Westbrook buy into Christie's system and actually defend? Because offensively, they'll score. They always do. But the West is too deep for teams that can't get stops. So, the Kings are interesting. They're talented. They'll compete. But in this Western Conference, that might not be enough. I think Westbrook gives them leadership and energy. He'll help them in the locker room. But on the floor, I don't see how this makes them a top 6 seed. For Russ, good fit. For the Kings, not a game changer. Sticking with the NBA and news that kind of flew under the radar today but deserves a moment, Malcolm Brogdon, classy player, good pro, has announced he's retiring after 9 seasons in the league. Now, Brogdon was set to make the Knicks' final roster. He was going to be a rotation guy, veteran guard, high IQ, could shoot it, defend, bring leadership, but he decides, you know what, it's time. And he's doing it on his own terms. And I got to say, I respect the heck out of that. This is a guy who's always done things the right way. 2nd round pick in 2016, 36 overall, and he goes on to win Rookie of the Year. Then a few years later, 6th Man of the Year. That doesn't happen unless you've got work ethic, humility, and brains. You look at his career numbers, 15 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds a night, but the stats don't tell the story. The guy was a leader everywhere he went. Milwaukee, Indiana, Boston, Portland, Washington. Steady, smart, professional. You never heard a bad word about him. And it's fitting that he says in his statement, I've arrived to this point on my own terms. That's exactly how he played, calm, in control, his own pace. Now for the Knicks, sure, it's a little bit of a hit to the depth chart. He would have been a nice piece off the bench, a guy who can settle the offense when things get chaotic. But big picture, this is Brogdon choosing peace over the grind. And look, 9 years, multiple awards, solid career. That's nothing to hang your head about. He's one of those guys who came in, did the job, elevated every locker room he was in, and left the game with respect intact. You can't say that about a lot of players. So hats off to Malcolm Brogdon. Terrific pro, great example for younger players, and honestly, one of the most underrated guards of the past decade. To the NFL, and San Francisco 49ers, who are as beat up as any team in football right now, finally got a little bit of good news today. Brock Purdy, remember him? He's missed 4 of the last 5 with that toe injury. Finally back at practice, limited, but back nonetheless. George Kittle, too. He's been out since week 1 with a hamstring, also limited. So at least the Niners got some bodies moving again, which they desperately need because that team has been running on fumes. Now, here's the deal. Mac Jones, who actually has been filling in pretty well, by the way, 3-1 as a starter, he's banged up too, knee and oblique. Shanahan says he actually did more than Purdy today, so right now your guess is as good as mine as who starts Sunday night against Atlanta. But if I had to bet, I'd say Jones probably gets the nod. Look, Niners are 4-2, they're fine record-wise, but they've lost a ton of leadership. Fred Warner goes down with a season-ending ankle injury, had surgery today. That's a massive blow. That's not just a linebacker. That's the guy who sets the tone for the entire defense. He's the green dot, the voice, the energy. He's the heartbeat of that locker room. And now they're turning to Tatum Bethune, a 7th-round pick. His first real action came in a meaningless Week 18 game last year. That's who's replacing Fred Warner. That's a tall order. You know, I like what the kid said. He said, I'm not trying to be Fred Warner. I'm just trying to be Tatum Bethune. Good attitude. Mature. But listen, you don't replace Fred Warner. You survive until he's back. Kittle, bring back helps. But Kittle bring back helps a lot. Huge in the pass game, even bigger as a blocker. The Niners' run game hasn't been the same without him. He also is a leader, right? An energy guy. So between him and McCaffrey, at least they've got some juice on the side of the ball there. And here's the truth. This team's identity is physicality. And when you lose guys like Warner and you've got a quarterback carousel going because of injuries, that takes a toll. The Niners are still well coached, still talented, but right now they look like a team trying to hold itself together with duct tape. So we'll see if they can get Kittle on the field Sunday night. That would be a major lift. Here's what's trending today in the world of sports. Miami Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa publicly apologized Wednesday for comments made after the team's 29-27 loss to the Chargers, in which he criticized teammates for being late or absent from players-only meetings. The Dolphins are currently 1-5, their worst start since 2021. Tagovailoa acknowledged his remarks were made out of frustration and admitted they should have remained internal. I made a mistake, and I'm owning up to that, he said, emphasizing his role as a team leader and the importance of protecting team unity. Head coach Mike McDaniel called the comments misguided, noting they were not reflective of broader team issues. Several players declined to comment, stressing that internal matters should stay in-house. Team captain Zach Salier added that while everyone is entitled to their opinion, the focus remains on improving performance and maintaining a strong culture. Despite the rocky start, Tagovailoa said the team remains united and committed to working hard. There hasn't been any bickering or pointing of fingers, he said, just guys putting their head down, trying to work. Sacramento Kings forward Keegan Murray has agreed to a 5-year, $140 million rookie contract extension, securing his place with the team through the 2030-31 season. Drafted 4th overall in 2022, Murray has emerged as a vital two-way player known for his perimeter and defense and shooting. He joins elite company alongside Anthony Edwards and Derek White as one of only 3 players with 500-plus three-pointers, 150-plus blocks, and 150-plus steals over the past 3 seasons. Last season, Murray averaged 12.4 points, 6.7 rebounds, and 1.4 assists across 76 games, while logging the 5th most half-court matchups against 2025 All-Stars. Despite his durability, he will miss the start of this season due to a torn UCL in his left thumb. Murray also ranks among just 7 players in NBA history to hit 150-plus threes in each of his first 3 seasons. Arizona State quarterback Sam Leavitt is showing promising signs of recovering from a right foot injury, with head coach Kenny Dingleham expressing optimism about Leavitt's availability for Saturday's matchup against Big 12 leader Texas Tech. After taking all first-team reps in Tuesday's practice and displaying improved mobility on Wednesday, Leavitt appears to be nearing a return. He's got 2 more days, but I feel really good about Sam and where he's at, Dingleham said. Leavitt has been sidelined since sustaining the injury during the Baylor's game on September 20th, despite practicing before last week's game against Utah. He was ultimately ruled out and traveled with the team in a protective boot. In his absence, Jeff Sims started and struggled in a 42-10 loss, completing 18 of 38 passes for 124 yards. Texas Tech also faces quarterback uncertainty, with starter Burhan Morton listed as day-to-day. Backup Will Hammond impressed in relief against Utah, throwing for 169 yards and 2 touchdowns with 61 rushing yards. Both teams could see key quarterback decisions shaping Saturday's showdown. In baseball, Game 3 of the ALCS between the Toronto Blue Jays and the Seattle Mariners. Toronto wins it 13-4. Seattle leads the series 2-1. Tomorrow, Game 3 of the Dodgers and the Brewers in LA. The Dodgers lead it 2-0. Blue Jays and the Mariners, Game 4. Seattle leads it 2-1. In college football, games going on around the country. Jackson State defeated Delaware 38-25. UTEP defeated Sam Houston 35-17. Yesterday, Liberty defeated New Mexico State 30-27. Arkansas State defeated South Alabama 15-14. Florida International defeated Western Kentucky 25-6. That's what's trending in sports. Here is tonight's final thought. Next summer, Boston, that cradle of liberty, that city of champions, is set to host the world. 7 World Cup matches are scheduled to be played there, a chance for the city to shine on the global stage. But now it seems that stage has become yet another battleground in America's endless war of words. After a violent street takeover made headlines, President Donald Trump suggested he might move those World Cup matches elsewhere. Moved because he doesn't like how the city's being run. Never mind that FIFA doesn't take scheduling orders from politicians. Never mind that those matches are sold out and that fans from around the world have already made plans. In today's political climate, bluster has become the coin of the realm. And threatening to cancel a celebration of sport is just one more way to score cheap points. Mayor Michelle Wu responded as mayors often do with optimism and civic pride, promising a city ready to welcome the world. But behind the words, there's a harder truth. Hosting an event of this scale requires more than pride and preparation. It demands unity, something that's been in short supply. Because when politics invades every field, every arena, every locker room, the game itself becomes the casualty. Boston doesn't need a lecture from Washington, and Washington doesn't need another headline about tough talk. What both could use, what we all could use, is a reminder that sport, at its best, should bring us together, not pull us further apart. That'll do it for me on this Wednesday night. Till next time, Ryder Bullock reporting. Thank you for your time, and thank you for letting me share